The Humans of New Mexico project is telling the stories of people who are shaping communities across the state. Our producer, Sarah Gustavus, recently sat down with two members of that group to find out why they are interviewing everyday New Mexicans and how they are sharing their stories and insights online and through social media.
I'm joined this week by Shraddha Patel. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Also, Georgia Weiss-Elliott. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Now, you are a UNM student, UNM graduate. You're both members of the collective Humans of New Mexico. Georgia, let's start with you. What drew you to this project?
Absolutely. I think what drew me most to the project is a connection to, trying to find a connection with the larger community of Albuquerque. And so always feeling like I want to be part of a community and I want to grow with a community, and there's definitely communities here, and getting to know those communities is very important.
And Shraddha?
Yeah, I had always been, I'm actually from California, and so entering New Mexico, I was really fascinated with how much culture there is and how many different communities there are, and just like how interconnected they are. And so I had found the project and I saw that there was a fellowship available, so I was like, why not apply?
What'd you do in your fellowship?
What I did mainly was transcriptions, and so what that is just kind of going over what the audio of an interview and kind of getting a written transcript of what was said during the interview, and then kind of pulling snippets for our Facebook page and things like that.
Well, for folks who haven't seen it yet, there's pictures and these stories from people. What's the process like? How do folks get their story and their photo into the project?
Well, first off, we just kind of set up a date for an interview, and then from there we'll have a photo shoot either at the time of the interview, or we'll try to set up one if it's not really a good location and things like that. We really want to make sure that we have something that really encapsulates the person's personality into the picture, as well as tie it into what the interview is about and things like that. We really just try to explore the person's experience in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. But how do people find out about you guys?
So one of the easiest ways is Facebook, and we'll find someone to interview, we'll interview them, and then all their friends will be like, wow, and their friends, and so it's sort of like our mini communities, and we reach out to people that way, and that's often how we find interviews. Is we interview one person and they're like, hey, my uncle back in Cañones is like, you need to talk to him, he knows a lot, his family's been there for generations. And so that's often how, we'll find connections, or through artists. We like to feature artists in the community to help build a sustainable, relationship with who we interview. And so it's often linked through other people. And we do try, we do have sort of guidelines of who we do and do not interview. And often,
what are those guidelines? Who makes the cut?
Secrets. No, often we try to feature people who wouldn't normally be featured in the news, or we try to create a counter story to news items that are often negative about our communities. And so we feature local people, everyday people, and for that reason we also won't feature necessarily people who have been interviewed numerous times, or very affluential people. We try not to interview like movie stars or politicians, and in that way we sort of shift away from that and focus on who New Mexico is, and show a picture of New Mexico of its humanity.
That makes me think about this particular year in 2017. It seems so divisive nationally, and we get some of that here in New Mexico too, of people just not understanding their neighbors or disagreeing with folks over politics. How do you see your project fitting into that this year in 2017?
I think it's definitely important for that, because right now we're seeing a raft of executive orders and certain things, and that target specific people, and people that live next to us, people that live in our communities, people that have helped build this city, have helped build this state. And I think especially as New Mexico, with our rich history and history of colonization, history of second colonization history, before that we really remember about the state, and that people have been here generations before New Mexico was a state, and so what does that mean to them is also really important. And so not only are we putting a face on our neighbor and saying, look at this person, they're great, and we all want to know these people, and we create a community, but also saying like, how does that affect New Mexico? Because New Mexico is unique in that way.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think it really, the project really explores these different communities that we have in New Mexico. And like Georgia was saying, people have been here for generations. And so we have this interconnectivity, but as technology has advanced and things like that, we kind of lose the having a neighbor in the sense of like going next door and saying, hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar, right? And I think this is kind of opening up that for someone to say, hey, I saw you on Humans in New Mexico, you know, and you can open up that conversation and get to know your neighbors, get to know your community that way.
And do each of you have any particular stories that really struck you as being significant or ones that you're excited to tell folks about?
My favorite one was honestly I didn't get to attend this interview, but it was the Van Overton Jr. or Senior. We have his story up on the page, and this was I think it may have been a month ago or something, but his story was just he recognizes a lot about the community, and I thought it was very impactful in how he presented it. And he was wearing this shirt, and it said "Hug Dealer" on it, and it was just he was a very open, it was a very open piece on him, and that was just one of my favorite ones.
I think I've gone on a few, and I've transcribed quite a few that I haven't gone on, and they all impress me. It's amazing, because sometimes, you know, we don't know what to expect, and I think certainly we're not expecting to be like amazed at every interview, and 9 times out of 10 I'm just blown away by like the wisdom someone shares, or the wisdom, you know, or just, you know, wow, this is in New Mexico and people are doing these things in New Mexico. And one of the first interviews that I went on that really struck me was we interviewed Tiara Hudson, and she's a high school student in Moriarty. She was at the time. She's graduated. She now is going to UNM. And we interviewed her, and as a multiracial, you know, female in this small community of New Mexico, it was just great to hear her story of how she, you know, chooses to identify and her goals, and just seeing this like spirit was so great. And that's, you know, definitely continued throughout the, you know, tenure of the project.
What's the response you've received so far?
Positive.
No one said this is kind of naive, this is, you know.
We've had a few, you know, maybe mostly Facebook, right? I'm talking about Facebook, where anyone can comment and sort of stay in their little bubble still. But we've had a few comments that maybe weren't as encouraging, but the community has really taken root in the project too. And so if someone comments on an interview about, you know, sort of less than positive comment, the community is often there to support that, and to support the person being interviewed, and to say, hey man, like, you know, this is actually a really great project, and they're doing this, and no one's really targeted the project specifically. Mm-hmm. And, you know, anytime we go somewhere and we tell people, hey, this is what we're doing, this is why, people are like, this is great, and we need this in our communities.
Do you know where this originated from? Was this influenced by a project like, say, Humans of New York that a lot of folks have also seen on Facebook?
So it's kind of along the same premises, but the main difference is we're very focused on these people. It's not just some random stranger who's only going to give you a little blurb. You may get a paragraph, you may get a sentence, right? This is about having a weekly feature of a person and getting to know them and making sure that their story is heard. And I think that's more of what the project is. It's like the stories of New Mexico, right? And like who the people of New Mexico are, really. And like what those experiences are, what the different interactions are, what the community faces, whether that be the growth from agricultural background to like being in the city and things like that.
What's the goal of this? What do you guys hope to accomplish, say, a year from now?
Personally, I really just want this project to just keep on going. Like, it's a really great collective. The amount of community that's involved is just, it's remarkable. I mean, it's something that'll put New Mexico kind of on a level of understanding regarding who this state is in the grand scheme of things, right? And yeah, I really want it to just keep going and keep getting these stories out there and making sure that the people's voices are heard and these stories are not forgotten.
Are you guys taking new collective members?
Always. I think one of the goals of the project is to increase capacity. And so right now the project is completely volunteer-based, which means that while we have, you know, maybe some money from grants, most of that money goes towards equipment, or it goes towards transportation to get, you know, to Pecos or to the south. And so most of that is spent on that, and we don't pay ourselves. So right now it's all volunteer based. That means interviews, photography, audio, transcriptions are all volunteer. So we are always looking for more community members. If people want to get involved, there's a link on our website that says get involved, and you can volunteer to do transcriptions. You may be a photographer, you may be an audio, sound engineer or someone. And we're always just looking for little pieces of the puzzle. And so we definitely, give us your information if anyone's interested. But yeah, always.
Well, thank you both. And we will put a link to your website on our website, newmexicoinfocus.org. Glad to learn a little bit more about the project.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I'm Gene Grant. Thanks for joining us for New Mexico in Focus. There's more online at newmexicoinfocus.org, including our conversation this week about the latest unemployment numbers and the state of the economy here in New Mexico.
I think that we are in an interesting place. We unfortunately have been here for a little while. When you look at economies that go from being behind to leaping ahead, it takes vision and it takes money.
That's right.
At this point, do we have the vision? Potentially, yes. I mean, to your point about a planning in a different way, what we don't see is a willingness to commit the money to make a great leap forward.
That's right.
Great leap in technology, in investment in our people, et cetera. There are communities, there are cities and states that have done this, there are countries that have done this, but New Mexico does not appear to be taking those lessons to heart at this point.
That's right. We appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus.
Funding for New Mexico in Focus provided by the McCune Charitable Foundation and the Nalita E. Walker Fund for KNME-TV, the KNME-TV Endowment Fund, and viewers like you.